I have 7 massive opportunities to share with you in this video. I'm going to tell you which companies they are and why I believe that is the case. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education, and while your kids may not listen, the cornfields do because they're all ears. All right, so I got to look at my notes here. SPY, QQQ, Nvidia, AMD, Tesla, Unity Software, Enphase, Pinduoduo, and CrowdStrike. Woo! Man, I don't even know that I can really say that in one breath. Let's get right into the charts and we'll see what exactly is going on. So right here with SPY, we can see the rising wedge play that we're on. We can also see that in the pre-market hours that we're up about $2 from where we were at before, so about 0.4% in the pre-market hours. As we look at SPY, so we need to watch and see that we continue to keep on retesting this resistance that we have up here. And it also looks as though the 20-day moving average that we can see from the Bollinger Bands here is acting as support for us that we bounce wildly off of. So we have to watch for that. And what we want to see is continued upward movement for this if we're going to stay bullish on the markets. And I've mentioned I am cautiously bullish on the markets. And even though a rising wedge pattern can be the sign of a reversal pattern, you have to break this support line here in order to have that actually start playing out. And for the SPY, we just don't see it yet. Moving over into the Qs, we have broken out of the rising wedge pattern. However, we found some pretty sturdy support coming down here at about 434. Just under it is where we tagged that, not once, but twice. As a matter of fact, 3 times. If we go back here, that so far, we've retested the bottom part of this resistance right here on the trend line on the rising wedge play that we have here as well. And it is possible that if we don't break through resistance to the upside around of this, that's right around that 446, 447 level, which we're actually right around that in the pre-market hours, we have to overcome these peaks. If we got to break 450 in order to get there, if we get rejected at the 450 level, as a matter of fact, let's slide this line up to 450. That can be absolutely critical for us as that turnaround spot for QQQ. So we're just somebody looking for it. Now, I don't know that that's going to be the case for us soon. We could actually hang out here for a little while longer, and we'll have to see what the technicals continue to build out for us and offer us. Let's go over into AMD in a moment. Let's actually go with Nvidia first, and then we'll take a look from there. So for Nvidia, we have a little bit of a rising wedge pattern, and maybe that fills out, maybe it doesn't, but you can see there's room in here to actually retest this top that we had back here. Right at about, I can tell you exactly where it was, 974 is where we peaked out before, and we've seen in the pre-market hours for that, we've also seen up to 967, 66, so almost 968, so we came within about $6 of it, and then in the pre-market hours this morning, we're also trading up from there. I said before that I think Nvidia could possibly hit the 4-figure mark, so hit 1,000 before it really starts to turn around and change course. We're going to have to watch for that. We're not too many percent away from that right now. That is absolutely critical to pay attention to. So for Nvidia, be watching for that possible double top to come out of this before we get another rapid sell coming off of this one, and then we'll find out where that support is. And right now that support is still looking like this 50-day SMA and EMA, which are kind of tangled together right in here. They almost came together before this most recent rapid rise that we have. And so we are still in bullish territory for Nvidia. I'm sorry, that's the 4-hour chart. Let's go out to the daily chart to see a little bit more about this so you can see just how steeply we're on this. And let's actually remove these rays that I have on here so you can see a little bit more. We're at slightly in the overbought territory. However, we're still above the 50-day, which is down here. The 50 SMAs, or EMAs right there, 200-day. This is still bullish territory. And when we look at the dailies, the 5 and the 13, we're still riding on top of those. We got a little bit of the high wicks coming in, showing maybe potentially, possibly a little bit of bearish pressure coming in, some of that selling pressure. The markets are just going to be a little bit wild right now. But Nvidia, I think, has $1,000 in its future. Probably over the next several weeks or several months, I think we could get there. Maybe even sooner than later. Maybe it even only takes days to see that happen. If we don't get there, I still think that it could happen within 2024. We're going to have to watch for it. AMD, I think, is where some really massive opportunity comes in because we actually dipped down below the 50 SMA on this one on the daily chart when we look at AMD. And so in the pre-market hours, we're at 180. If we can break up above that 180, we could have further room to the upside of this. Now, mind you, this little pinkish line that we have here, this beige line, is the 20-day simple moving average that we have that's associated with the Bollinger Bands. And we could see that return to the mean, which still puts us up at about 190 to 192 when we look at those, the resistance that we have here and also the resistance at that moving average. So I think that there could be significant upside, that we have tested the 50-day, and if we are able to close up above the 50-day, I think that there's further upside to follow for AMD, that we got a little bit of overselling happening in the moment, even if it's not indicated by the RSI that we have right now. I think that that recovery could happen, that we came down, we tested that support, and that we could see significant upside to the tune of 10% plus if we're able to overtake that 50-day. Once again, if we fail to break that one and get rejected, then we could sell off further, and then we could see downside on that one, possibly 10% to the downside. So it's all about that 50-day and whether or not we can close above it. Moving over to Tesla. With Tesla, there we go. Let's put this up on the chart, and I'll collapse that so you can see it a little bit better. So with Tesla, it looks like we have a point of confluence coming in. We have the 20-day SMA coming down this way. We are trying to break, actually we have broken up above in the pre-market hours based on the news that they are putting out a month of full self-driving as a trial, which could help feed the revenues, and it is high margin, so it could help fill out the bottom line as well for their earnings. And we do know that it needs that because the margins have been compressed as competition comes into the EV space. And then we also see other pressures come in and really start to drive down the demand for Tesla. So that's for the automotive industry in general, but also a Tesla being part of that. So we do need to watch for that one. It is possible that we put the bottom in. We're going to have to see. But this point of confluence that we have right at about 180 is where that line in the sand is. If we're able to overtake 180, we have further upside to the 50-day EMA and SMA, which are up here, which are going to come down to meet it. Possibly we start to see that 185 become a possibility if we can take 180. So for Tesla, we could have about a 5% upside even up from the pre-market right now if we're able to get up over that resistance, that point of confluence in this descending wedge that we have right here. That could be a place where we still find retest of resistance and then we sell off back down to support. If we don't make it back down to these support levels, that we stay up within the middle of this, it is possible that we see enough buying pressure, enough of the bull pressure to come in and finally send us out of this and see a bullish return to Tesla stock, at least in the near term when we look at it, even though we're down below the 50 and the 200 days. 200 days all the way up here at 233, by the way, and the 50 EMA and SMA are right around 190. So this is one that I'm watching very carefully. I continue to dollar cost average into Tesla stock on its way down, and I use the options plays to take advantage of the price movements when I think that there's significant opportunity coming for it. So for Tesla, being up above the green and the yellow that we have here, that's the 5 and the 13 exponential moving averages. My goodness, me and the charts are having trouble. I'm sorry for the dizziness that you might be experiencing today. Being up above those is a sign, especially if we get the cross between those, and we can get that cross today. That can be a sign that there's further upside as well. And like I said, 180 is that line in the sand for Tesla to give us further upside. Unity Software. This one doesn't get talked about a lot, but you can see the range markings that I have on here, that there's a range trade going on with Unity Software. I actually started dollar cost averaging into this, being as that they're at their bottom. And also, I did do some options plays on this and took advantage of the upside that we saw. That worked out very well. I closed it out to avoid the weekend risk on Friday is when I closed out the options that I have on that one. But I am thinking to dollar cost average some more, and also to take advantage of further upside that we could see here. The 200 days at about $34 per share. The 50 EMA and SMA are right around that $30 mark, and so we could get a round number resistance coming off of that one. But I do think that we could still see another 10% coming off of Unity Software in the near future. I think we could get that push up to $30, and I think I'm most likely going to enter some call options to take advantage of that as well. We do have the market risk of a market sell-off, and Unity Software could actually be punished a little bit by that, so we would be looking out for it. But Unity Software, absolutely massive. Over into N phase. N phase has an ascending triangle pattern coming off the bottom of this. We could possibly see that reversal. We closed yesterday at about 111. Today, we're in the pre-market hours, we're at about 112. So if we find support down here, this could be a good opportunity to go long on this with the 50 EMA and SMA, and also the trend line resistance that we have, 138 all the way down to about 133. So a $5 range. That's still, from where we're at right now, like 15% up to just the resistance that we have. So that is something that I think could be absolutely incredible. For N phase, we got to be careful that this right here doesn't turn into a bear flag pattern for us, that if should we break down through the support that we have here, that this could actually be a bearish thing instead. So if it is something that you're going long on, it would be a place where you would want to have your stops in place. Not financial advice, just ideas that I'm throwing out there of how exactly I would play it. So for me, going long from where we're at right now, even though I started dollar cost averaging into this for a longer term position to build it up, I believe this stock is way down on its luck at the moment. As we start to peel back on what we see for the interest rates over time, whenever that time happens to come around, I should have a healthy amount of end-phase stock build up in my portfolio, and then I can also use options plays along the time to build up the cash in order to keep on making plays like this one on end phase. So I think that going long on this, 10 to 15% upside just for the stock itself. And then if you're up for the higher risk, then options plays, call options could be one of those things that can also pay off in multiples over what the stock appreciation would do. But remember that there's always the risk reward balance. That low risk usually goes to low reward, and that high risk normally goes with high reward. And so moving on from there, Pinduoduo. This one crossed below 50 on the RSI. The daily chart, as we look at it, we're down below the 50, we're down below the 20, we're down in the pre-market from yesterday's close. I think we could possibly come down to the 200, which is down where the bottom of this is, which is about 110 from where we're at right now. So giving up about 8 to 10% from where it's at right now. I think 8% is actually a closer estimate. Coming down here, they could get a significant bounce off the 200-day. And so this is one, Pinduoduo in China, having a rough time of things. And if we go out to the weekly chart to check out the longer term trend on this, this is one where we've actually crossed down below 50 as well. We actually got rejected on the 50 RSI for this one. And so we could possibly even sell down. Maybe this 50 week comes up trying to meet this one. Maybe we can sell down to that 50 week down at 103 if selling pressure really becomes intense on this one. So for Pinduoduo, PDD is the ticker symbol. This is one that right now currently kind of mixed between bullish and bearish, as it's down below the 50-day, but still up above the 200-day. So long-term trend, still looking bullish. So you got to be careful when you go against the trend on that one, although we are a little bit mixed here. But I do think there's significant opportunity there. So here's CrowdStrike. I'm also going to give you a bonus here at the end. So if you stuck around this long, CrowdStrike is consolidating. It's going to break 10% in either direction is what I'm predicting for this one. We either drop back down to support down at 288 or being bullish, being up above the 50 and the 200 days and coming off the 20-day that we have here. We could possibly even retest this high that we have right at about 365. So 10% move for CrowdStrike. All we got to do is watch and see which trend line exactly is going to be broken in the pre-market hours. As we look at this one, if I can click on the right button, I'm still not coordinated, so sorry about that. It's afflicted me all my life. I doubt it's going to change now. Right now, it looks like we're flirting with maybe the upper trend line of that, maybe flirting with that resistance. And if we break through that resistance, that is something that we could see that further upside, that 10% to the upside on CrowdStrike. So that bonus that I talked about, this one was put out by a guy in my stock group named Kiko Stocks. He's an amazing guy and definitely very skilled as a trader. And he mentioned Ocugen. Now, mind you, he mentioned Ocugen a while back. Let's go out to the daily chart on this one and we'll talk about it. So daily chart, there we go. So he talked about this one all the way back when it was under $1 per share. I believe that it was back here when it popped up a little bit, around 56 cents per share. And you can see we actually double bottomed on this thing onto the 200-day. And I initiated a position based off what he talked about, based off what I read about it, and looking for that FDA approval to come in. And so 56 cents per share is my cost basis. Plus I bought 10 options contracts on top of that, and they paid off handsomely. As a matter of fact, right now, it is possible that with the call, I actually sold a call against the shares that I bought on this one. So that one, if we make it to the 250 strike price that I have by April the 19th and I get assigned to sell those, that's still between 4 and 5x my money on just those shares by that time. And now, mind you, all of those shares have been paid for by the options contracts that paid off back here when we saw the last rise in the shares. And that sold call option that I have, I really don't want to be assigned to lose my shares. Instead, for this one, what I want to see is for this thing to sell down and either be able to buy to close that position, or what I'm looking for is an opportunity in there that, like I said, if I get signed, there's really no risk. This thing would have to go down to 16 cents per share in order for me to break even on the money that I had for my initial investment into the shares themselves, which have already been covered by the other options plays that I had anyway. So Ocugen, this is one class action lawsuit just got thrown out against the company. Something that runs in my family on my mother's side. As a matter of fact, my grandmother had the geographic macular degeneration, which is something with the macula in your eyeballs where you can't see straight in front of you, but you can see things in your peripheral vision. Ocugen is coming out with a treatment for that one, pending FDA approval sometime either this year or next, I believe. I have to go back and fact check the one. I have to update my research on that one, but I do plan to hold on to those shares. If I get assigned and I have to sell them, well, that's part of the risk that I take on. There's also the opportunity risk that we make it up to and beyond $250 per share by that April the 19th time. And then I have that opportunity risk. My shares are gone. And if we have further upside beyond that, I wouldn't be able to capitalize on it because of that opportunity risk that goes along with selling those options. So there's some downside risk that's already been fully mitigated. And then the opportunity risk that goes along with any time that you sell calls, covered calls like I did here. All right, so I'm going to let you guys go with that. If you want to see what I'm buying and selling, if you want to talk with me and my community members, there's a link for the Patreon down in the description. Come on over and see what I have to offer over there and join the community. We'd absolutely love to hear from you, especially if you're passionate about trading and investing, really anything finance, and especially if you're a good person, because everybody that have my group is a very good person. They're all very kind, very friendly, and I couldn't be more blessed to have them. And then also, guys, if you want to learn to do technical analysis like I do, there's a link down in the description for a trading course that you can go ahead and take available through Stockmo Academy, and I have a couple chapters in there as well, so go ahead and check that out. I really do appreciate the time that you guys put in. Thank you very much for watching. Go ahead and hit that like button. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.